Okay, so we're going to the wrestling gym with Mr. Whitebelt.
That's what you want to call him, is Mr. Whitebelt?
Mr. Whitebelt.
All right. So Gabe started wrestling on top of Jiujtsu.
Yep.
Same location. Same gym.
I think my Jiu-Jitsu helps me with wrestling.
You could see that. How do you think it helped you?
It just helped, like, because in like if you just start wrestling or don't do like anything else, then you wouldn't know like what the places are and sometimes how to get out and how to block wrestlers' shoots and takedowns. So, in Jiu-Jitsu they teach that. They teach how to sprawl when someone's shooting on you, or
The stand-up's very similar.
yeah.
The difference with Jiu-Jitsu is you're wearing a gi most of the time, not all the time.
Yeah. Not all the
And
time.
Jiu-Jitsu, they can grab the gi.
Yeah. In wrestling you can't.
Because there's no gi.
Yeah, there is no gi. You can't grab a shirt.
You can't grab a shirt. That's where it's more like no gi, the stand-up. But also very similar. You know,
I feel like
takedowns to takedown.
yeah.
Although in Jiu-Jitsu, you get takedown points almost when you hit the mat and you're both on the ground.
In wrestling, it probably takes you like 5
In
seconds.
wrestling, you have to be. I guess in Jiu-Jitsu, you're supposed to be controlled too. But I feel like the referees in Jiu-Jitsu give you takedown points right away.
In
wrestling, you kind of spin around and get towards the back more.
Also, there's a big difference in wrestling and Jiu-Jitsu. In wrestling, there's no disqualifications or
But that's not true.
well, maybe there's disqualifications, but there's no advantages.
There's no advantages. That's right.
But in Jiu-Jitsu, there is.
You know what else you get in wrestling that you don't get in Jiu-Jitsu?
What?
An escape point.
What do you mean you get an escape?
So if you're on the ground, the guy takes you down. He's behind you, and he gets his 2 takedown points. If you stand up and get away, you get 1 point for an escape. You don't get that in Jiu-Jitsu, which I didn't know that until right before my first tournament. We were going over with Coach Larry, I believe. We were going over the point system. You know, this is how.
And you asked him, wait, what?
No, it was a trick question. He said, how many points is it if you stand up and get away? And I said, 1, escape. And he's like, there's no escape points. It's no points. So I was like, oh, that's a good thing to know.
Yeah, you'd be escaping this whole time, and you'd be like, yeah, I'm up on point.
Yeah, in my mind I would have been, absolutely. If I didn't look at the score while I was rolling, absolutely. So there are differences. But at the end, it's all grappling. So
it's still the same thing, kind of.
Yeah, Jiu-Jitsu is kind of like wrestling with submissions.
Yeah.
Where
I feel like in wrestling, you're more aggressive.
Sure. Also, wrestling has rounds. You know that? It's like 3 2-minute rounds. Well, for you, it's probably 1 minute round, but.
Wait, you get rounds like this with the same person around?
Yeah. So it's like you go for 1 minute.
Like a rematch?
No, it's not like a rematch.
Oh.
You get a break, pretty much.
So like in UFC, like they'll have like 3 or 5 rounds.
Okay. Yeah. But it's not like that. Like you don't go back to your corner, sit on a bench, and get a glass of water, and ice down.
I know that.
And you may be able to get water. It's fine. I did this 20-something years ago, so it's different. Yeah. I don't know what rules have changed, like as time-wise it goes, but usually what happens is it's literally like a 15 to 30 second pause between rounds, and the ref will flip a coin or say you may win the coin toss early on and say, okay, you get to choose top, bottom, or neutral. So that's
what's neutral, like standing up?
Neutral, standing up.
What do you usually just choose, like neutral?
I always chose top. So.
Why is that? Because then you could just
Because like in Jiu-Jitsu,
you could.
It was when you're in bottom. It's not like you're on your back like you are in Jiu-Jitsu. When you're in bottom, you're in referee position, and when they blew the whistle, you want to get a reversal, which is like a sweep, right? And since my bottom game in Jiu-Jitsu is horrible, I didn't want to, and it's not since my bottom, but this probably explains a few things. I chose top because it's easier for me to break someone down and put them on their back than it was for me to get a reversal. I like to be in control. So if I can control someone from beginning to end, the better I feel about it.
What I think that you'd usually do is just like say like neutral, because
I would choose neutral too, because neutral, I always felt I was always very confident with my takedowns and my takedown defense, and not giving up 2 points.
Yeah,
for a
I always like when I ask about your jiu-jitsu, they're always like, oh, we're always prepared when he's gonna shoot on us, but we're never prepared like because they're like, when the match starts, he goes right after their legs, no matter what the cost is. He goes right after their legs.
You were talking to your uncle.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was in wrestling, and when we were in wrestling, or when I was in wrestling, he was in wrestling with us. I would come out to the line, and then as soon as the ref blew the whistle, I would shoot in. I'm not a big fan of tying up and doing Russian ties and playing the whole hand game and whatnot. I'd rather just get it to the ground as soon as possible. Like I said, control the match from beginning to end. So, it's the other thing that's different about jiu-jitsu that is wrestling. Wrestling uses the lines that are on the mat that shows your green side, your red side, and you're like literally 2 feet apart. So it made doing that a lot easier. As long as you could time the whistle. You hear the whistle, you shoot in. That was always the thing that I would do. Now with jiu-jitsu,
now
you're like 10 feet apart or 5 feet apart. So you have to walk up to the person, and by then they're reaching. Or the other factor with jiu-jitsu is people can pull guard. No one pulls guard in wrestling because there's no such thing.
Yeah, I know that, but I don't do that. But if you watch my matches, then you know what I do. I don't shoot.
We know. So disappointed.
Hey, I still get them right off the mat.
Well, you do get to it.
In some of my matches, they don't even know that I'm going for the submission that I always go for.
It's because you don't get it. Oh, that was good. Burn, sizzle.
Can't punch you in the car, then you'd be knocked out.
And I'm driving across the bridge. That probably wouldn't be the smartest thing for you to do.
Yeah. You'd probably get into a car crash. And I'd grab my thing, grab this.
Anyway, get back on track here, youngster. We're talking about the different comparisons. So what else in your limited knowledge of wrestling do you find different to jiu-jitsu with wrestling?
The difference in wrestling, all the stuff that we drill is nothing to do with jiu-jitsu. I mean, some of it you can relate to jiu-jitsu, but most of, if you compare the jiu-jitsu to wrestling, it's nothing compared.
Okay, so try to compare it, right? What do you mean by what's so different?
The different part is that usually we won't drill takedowns and stuff like that, and how to get them down to the ground.
In jiu-jitsu?
Yeah.
What jiu-jitsu?
Well, sometimes, not all the time.
Right.
In wrestling, you're always talking about how to get them down, or how to stall or I don't know if can you stall in wrestling?
Not really. You get called for stalling.
So there is some comparisons and some differences.
What about
because you can't stall in jiu-jitsu.
Oh yes, you can. You could sit in someone's guard and hold the guard closed for the whole round, and that is completely stalling somebody I know. Yeah, we know. So that's good though. So what have you learned in wrestling?
Fireman carry.
Fireman carry.
Arm drag.
Arm drag. Was it an arm drag takedown? What do you mean by arm drag?
The arm drag takedown.
Cool. From being tied up? Like
yeah.
Almost like a clinch tie?
Yeah.
Or starting the clinch tie? Because it's not really...
Yeah.
More like they put the arm there to start the clinch?
Yeah. It's like they were reaching and like they got to your shoulder and then you automatically do it.
Yeah. You gotta be quick. That's very much like going off the whistle, shooting off the whistle. Because you have to, that timing is...
Yeah, he also told us that like usually you could do this if like they're not grabbing you, like if their arm is down.
To get wrist control?
No, you do it like you grab the wrist and then you throw it and then you grab it with this hand and then you throw it over and then you take them.
Okay.
Yeah.
Not really sure you explained that well, but well enough for a 10-year-old.
Yeah.
11-year-old. How old are you? 5? 11. Anyway, moving on.
Yeah.
That's good. So yeah, that's good because you're really new. This is only going to be your 3rd or 4th class.
It's going to be my 3rd class. Yeah, it's my 3rd class because I was going to say, I mean, if we're counting the 2 classes that are basically in one thing, because there's the first class, because like I've done 2 of the different classes. There's the kids class, and then there's the
big kids class.
Yeah, there's like a big kids class. It's wrestling.
It's like senior high. Yeah, that's good. This is helping you because next year when you go to school, you'll be in middle school, and you'll be actually able to join a wrestling team if you wanted to, and then compete in wrestling. You could have done that all this whole time.
Yeah.
I just got lazy and said, let's do jiu-jitsu.
Yeah, I'd be like, oh, I'm so good at wrestling, and then when we start to do jiu-jitsu, because it'd be wrestling, but then we do jiu-jitsu.
Yeah.
I'd be like, oh, I could take down these guys, and then later on, I'm like, oh, great, this is nothing like wrestling. The only thing that's like
close.
wrestling.
It's close.
Yeah. I can't stall or anything.
We're pulling into the gym now, so we're going to sign out. Thanks for joining us and watching this episode. I think someone's watching it now. I don't really know. But yeah, so thanks. We'll see you on our next adventure.
Say bye to Mr. Whitebelt.
Yeah, say bye to Mr. Whitebelt.